are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other hosts or advertisers. The show, found on the Powerhouse radio station, can promote any lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or conditions. Opinions stated by various contributors to the Powerhouse Radio and its programming are not to be considered as endorsed by the Powerhouse Radio station. Visitors are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusion. We emphasize the importance of keeping an open mind. Yeah, yeah. You listen to the sounds of DJ 440, you get right now. If you're in your car, if you're at home, if you're on your phone, that's right, baby. Driving home and you feeling kinda tired. Radio plays bang bang every day. So the videos with you live. Traffic got you stand up every night. Tune in to Powerhouse. Wednesdays 7 to 9, you need to check them out. I promise I ain't trying to hide it. But one good listen tonight, it might change your life. So what's the name of the show? You need something to just ride to on the go. Or you might be home so long gone. You can even dial in on your phone. I promise that you're gonna love it. Just try it one time, it'll blow your mind. Now I'ma say it just one more time. Every Wednesday from 7 to 9. Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride. Let's ride. Good evening, good evening. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It is September 29th, 2021. OMG. Hey, McKenna.
Hey, Tonya, it's so good to see you. How you feeling over there?
Oh, I am feeling recharged. The summer break was awesome. We're
Yeah,
back. Our first show.
I just want to welcome everybody to the fall season of Let's Gripe. The summer is officially over, and we are now in that fall season. You can definitely tell just a little Christmas in the air some days. So that weather is changing. The leaves seem to know what to do every time this time of year, and so I've noticed some orange and brown leaves kind of falling. And so it's fall. It's fall. Hey, fall.
Now, Marcus is running a little late, so he's going to chime in soon. But how fast the year has went.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, it was just like it was literally just February. And now it is Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and then that's it. We're going to be circling the block to 2022. Um, I mean, when we entered 2021, we were very hopeful that this year, it started out kind of like at the top of the year with, okay, let's get vaccinated. The vaccines are out. You know, there's lots of conversation, and there still is a lot of conversation about the vaccines. And people were thinking, okay, well, by summer, everything should be good. I mean, we've been in this a year, and then all of a sudden, that Delta variant took a turn. Um, and people's summer were probably a little bit more eventful than last summer, but maybe not as eventful as some people would have liked. And now here we are, literally in the third quarter, almost fourth quarter of the year, and it's about to be rollover minutes to 2022, just like that.
You just basically I'll piggyback on it. You're so right. We were so much ready to leave 2020 behind, start a fresh year 2021, and it's like we brought over 2020 in 2021, and it's amazing that it's still here. But being that you brought that topic up, I think we was going to try to wait till Marcus chime in, but since we brought it up, we can even start there on the vaccine. Today, on social media, LeBron James finally admitted that he was fully vaccinated, but he doesn't feel like it's his place to, what is that word I'm looking for? To, I guess, maybe talk someone into getting the vaccine. And when I saw that, I thought of me because that's me as well. What do you think about that, McKenna?
I think that it's been out long enough for people to make up their own mind. And on one hand, I kind of understand his position that he doesn't want to be the influence of people making that choice. People see LeBron as a role model. They see him as an athlete. They see him as a business person, an entrepreneur, a father. And he's a person that does have influence. So he could use that platform if he chose to influence other people. But he's chosen not to. And he's chosen to take the position that this is something that I did because of my own reasons. And if that's what you want to do, make that decision because of those are your reasons. But I'm not going to use my influence to sway you either way regarding your decision about the vaccine. So it's interesting his posturing and his position. I wonder if he was pressured into making that decision or if it's something that he did willingly. But there's always more questions than answers. There are plenty of media outlets that are encouraging people to, get vaccinated, and there are other people that are saying, do your own research, make your own decisions. And so, even some governors of some states, we won't name them, Florida, we won't name them, are, the governor of Florida is fully vaccinated, but he's still fighting school districts, as it relates to, mandates for masks for school children. So it's a lot of information that's out there, and I think people just have to sift through it and make some practical choices.
I agree with you 100%. You have to educate yourself on, if you should or should not. And I believe that at the end of the day, that decision is definitely yours. So good point. Because I feel that I personally would not be able to go back and forth in a discussion about it. That's how I feel regarding the V. We're going to call it the V and the C. Hey, Marcus.
Hey, what's up? Can you hear me?
Can hear you fine. I think we lost McKenna just for a second, so she'll be back in. But what's up? What's up, Marcus? We were just saying how it's the fall. We're back, and the year's almost over, and it was just January.
Yeah, things moving fast, man.
Oh, you looking good though. You looking recharged too.
Oh,
you looking like you got some rest.
I'm sitting up here like I'm scruffed.
The last time I saw you, you look good all the time. But I'm just saying, you just look like you rested. You might think you need to clean up, but
I need to clean this on up.
Rested.
But Ken,
yes.
Hey, MG, what's up, MG?
Nothing
I feel like I haven't seen you in a month of Sundays.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
I was saying that we took the summer break and now it's fall. Like it's officially football season. It's officially fall. Leaves are falling from the trees. There's a coolness in the air. The days, have you noticed the days that's my gripe. The days are getting a little shorter. Like I've just noticed. Like that sun till 8 o'clock. No, 8 o'clock is not going to catch the sun. It's going to be down before then. And then I feel like right around the curve, that time is going to fall back. And then it'll be like, oh no, that's it. It's over.
And a couple of days ago, you felt the fall breeze. You can feel the fall in the air. And I went out, I think Monday, when I came out the house, because I work from home, in the afternoon, I thought I was in Jamaica. It was so hot. I said, wait, I was mad at the weather. Literally. Yes, it was supposed to be fall. In the house, it felt like fall. It was chilly, turned the AC off, got the window up, and I go outside and I felt that I could have on some shorts. So, yes.
It's definitely that up and down season. So one day you're going to feel warm and that 2 or 3 days later, that cool front will come through. I can't remember, was that last week? I had to close the window. I was like, I feel cool. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, why am I cold? And I was like, let me close this window. So September, October, those are those months where you can wear 2 different seasons of clothes in the same week.
Well, Ed, so you did mention the sports. So we're back in football season. Marcus, can you
hear
put
me?
us update? Yes, we can hear you. Okay. Can you catch us update? You and McKenna, can you give us an update so far What's going on in the football season?
With the Falcons trash. I mean that
But
that
didn't
is
they
what
just
it,
win? Didn't they win a game?
they
Didn't they
won
win
a
a
game.
game?
They
Or did
won.
they steal the game?
No, they won one game.
Okay, they won. How much they
They
played
won
so far?
3.
Okay, one out
So
of
they
three.
won. Yeah, they won one game.
Okay,
But they're not good though. They're working on it though. They're working on it.
they're working on.
So far it's been a pretty crazy first 3 games. A lot of the teams that I guess there's teams that are supposed to be really good, like the Chiefs. Chiefs are like supposed to be like the #1 team, and now they lost 2 games out of 3. So they
Okay,
won it. They won into just like the Falcons. So I guess out of the NFL, that's kind of the big news. But people have more faith in the Chiefs that they're gonna come out on top than they do the Falcons. So.
oh really? Okay, McKenna, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I would say what Marcus said. Tampa Bay looked pretty good. I think they lost one game. Um, the Falcons, there's always conversation about our home team, Kansas City. I kind of watched a few of their games and I was thinking, yeah, you might want to go back to that X and O and that line and the person that runs out this way and that's supposed to catch the ball. So they probably are reviewing tapes as we like probably right this minute. They're probably reviewing tapes as homework assignments because there's too much money out there that people are making to be losing this early in the season. I still think there might be a trade or two somewhere along the line because it's still early in the season. But I think by next week, those teams that people have their eye on will start to um, look more like professional athletes than college athletes. I will say there was a field goal. I can't remember which game it was, but it was like 60 something yards or 52 yards. It was very impressive. And I think that was one of those things that made the highlight. Like he really kicked that ball. So I can't remember which game that was that I watched.
The Ravens versus Detroit, 66 yards, which would turn out to be is an NFL record.
Okay,
So I mean, 66 yards is far, far. So
okay.
I mean, he did like a shuffle. He did like a shuffle hop step before he got to that ball. He needed a little momentum. I was like, oh, he's like a little run hop. But I didn't realize he was kicking it that far. I'm like, oh goodness, good grief.
yeah. So it's an NFL record. He's gonna go down in the record books. Before it's all over, he's probably gonna be a Hall of Famer. So shout out to the Ravens, our Ravens fans too. Shout out to them, man.
Shout out. Well, let's see who's gonna go to the Super Bowl next year. Because by the time you blink, it's next year.
That's what it seems like, right?
It seems like it. I'm sitting up here like, okay, what am I going to cook for Thanksgiving? Or am I cooking for Thanksgiving? Or am I going somewhere? That's how, like, it looks like it's that close,
Man.
But, this season of Let's Gripe, we always bring it up a notch. Some agree, some don't. But there's so much going on right now. It's so much, of course, when we was on our summer break, there was so much that went on. Can't go all the way back there, but we could definitely talk about what's going on now. Who wants to start the headliner?
I guess I can go, man. To give people a little background and about the story that I'm about to talk about, that we're about to talk about. My first CD I ever owned was 12 Play. First CD ever owned 12 Play. And so I've even been to a concert. So to say the least, I've been a fan. And speaking about for people that don't know, I'm sure everybody does know. R. Kelly was found guilty on all charges, and so I've been a fan of his music. Like I said, it's my first CD ever. And so was it like 94ish or something like that? Something like somewhere in there. But anyway, so I've been a fan for a long time, a long, long, long time. And there's this whole debate about whether or not you should listen to his music or not. I mean, it's probably easier now because he didn't make any really kind of technically new music. You know what I mean? So, sometimes you don't listen to older music all the time. But it's been, like I said, I'm a huge fan. Um, but then to hear some of the things about the charges, it's just, to me, it's just like one of those things where it's just like, gotta let it go, man. Because when they did the special about what was it, like a few years ago, surviving R. Kelly, I couldn't watch it. Like, I couldn't watch it at all. I just let it go for what it is, though. Um, but I think it's time. It's time.
I am in a mixed place with the whole R. Kelly situation, because we know, because he's a celebrity. That's why the things that he was accused of doing, forcefully, willingly, I believe if he was a regular everyday person like us, he wouldn't have been able to do. And we know money plays a lot of factor in a lot of things. So I just think that it's sad. It's a sad day for a person that went through so much that he went through as a child, and to become this singer, writer. And he was good. He was good. Like you said, Marcus, that's what we grew up. I mean, people could say it every day. There was babies made on his music. There was something to talk about. And then there are people, the victims who was abused or who endure certain treatments. But it's like we only holding one person accountable. And I think that's where it's like, even when it came to Bill Cosby, when it came to Michael Jackson, it came to a thing where if this person who they are, or the money that they have, the influences that they have, would these things would have been able to happen and for so long and so forth. So it's like, if his music play, would I rock to it? Yes, I will. Because we're listening to that's something that we grew up on. We're not looking at the backstory. So it's rough. It's a thing where you think about the victim, and then you think about the person.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about that.
And I feel you, because the music is very nostalgic. Like, it's not, it's not one of those things where you are sitting back saying, I really love this guy. You know what I mean? But for me, music is always nostalgic. Like, if you think about a song, you think about a time and a place. And for some reason, you might even think about the person that you were with. You know what I mean? But even so, like, that's what it does. Like, you think about a time, place, what you were doing at that time, and it goes beyond music sometimes at that point. So I definitely feel you. What you got going on, McKenna?
So I have a couple of things. I will say that it is a sad day in the sense that it took all of this. I mean, this is a culmination of 2, 3, 4 years, previous trials and previous accusations for some people to get to the place where healing can start. I know one of the victims had a brief interview, and she basically stated that she's glad that this piece is over, but she wants to know what her next chapter is going to look like as it relates to the healing piece, because many people were traumatized directly and indirectly. And then we also have those other questions, and I think Tonya hit on that. Other people who were complicit, people who knew that this was happening, who may have participated, who stood by a door that didn't say anything, or stood by the door, didn't let somebody else in, who was inside the room, who witnessed it. There were people who were traumatized or exposed to or complicit in it, indirectly, for the past 20 years, and kept secrets. And there's probably other things that didn't come out that haven't been shared. and other people who were complicit in this too. So I think on that level, it's just very sad about um, how twisted people can be when it relates to their sexual deviancy. I mean, just some of the things that were talked about in Surviving R. Kelly, and some of the things that came out in the actual trial itself about his perversion. The other piece is, I think everybody has to heal, because there are lots of us who still love his music and have that torn sentiment. Like, what do I do with this? Like, when I hear the song, the song is always catchy no matter which song it is. And then we had this debate in another conversation, like, which R. Kelly song do you not like? I mean, that could be a Jeopardy question. Like, which song that R. Kelly made or wrote or co-produced that you didn't like? I can't really remember. Maybe there was one that wasn't played that I don't remember. But it's even difficult to say that I can't, if there was a song that I didn't like.
You don't listen to it.
that one.
Yeah. You
That
just yeah.
song. That song. That song. And then the other part is, there was a conversation that said, okay, so let's say hypothetically he gets 10 years or 11 years, or maybe he gets 15 years. When he comes out, will time forgive him, and will he be able to become a different version of Robert Kelly? A version of himself that doesn't prey on young women, that atones for his sins and mistakes and his discretions or indiscretions, or his breaking of the law, his habitual practice of preying on younger women. Like, is it possible that people can change? And can we, as a fan base, or Americans, or even Black people or Black women, can we forgive Robert for what's happened? So I think there's still more questions out there that we'll circle back and we'll have to discuss.
That's a really good question, McKenna. Because for me, I it's a song that's it's called Three-Way Phone Call. It's a gospel song. With Kelly Price, and I forget the other woman's name. She's a really famous gospel singer. Anyway, I love that song. Like, sometimes, I mean, I could, it's about, which is crazy, it's about redemption, right? Um, Going through life and not being kind of that practical person that God would choose to forgive. Um, but them reassuring that God does, you know what I mean? Which is so crazy because, of course, this is before everything kind of happened and stuff like that. Um, but I think in order for people to even attempt to or try to, it would have to be void of music. You know what I mean? Like, he can't become he couldn't get out and be like, well, I'm about to drop a single or something, something to that nature. You know what I mean? Like, it had to be void of music. Um, because for what we know and what we believe, that was his catalyst to lure people in. You know what I mean? Like, because he was a famous artist and everything else, that's what attracted to, the girls or the women or whoever attracted to him. So that's what he used. You know, say for other people, it's not a joke, but they used to say something like, offering candy and stuff like that. But for him, that was his thing. You know what I mean? And there was always a debate about whether the parents knew or didn't know, because of his famous celebrity. He may have, hey, look, I paid or whatever have you, you know, whether he did that or not. To me, because me personally, I don't like, younger, why would you even, being over the age of 25, anybody in their teens should be off limits. 18, 19, really, for me, that's just my personal. But so when you're on that line, you're on the cusp of that line, these are the things that happen to you. But definitely, I think that's a very good question, and it'd have to be void of music if that were to happen. And he'd have to, of course, um, show people contrition of something different. You know what I mean? Because I think the whole time he's kind of been like, I ain't do nothing wrong. You know what I mean? So, but that's a very good question.
I mean, because he said he didn't see nothing wrong with it. He didn't say that. So
There
for him
you
not to
go.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't help it. The door was open. Um, and so it will be interesting in his private moment, once that reality sinks in that, okay, I mean, I'm sure there'll be an appeal process, but in the interim, he's already spent time in jail. Once he leaves the jail and goes to the prison, and is he going to go to prison in New York? Like, is he going to go to prison in New York, or where is he going to go? Like, all these things haven't been answered yet. And then, I mean, even that question about what happens when he gets to that correctional facility. This is not the same correctional facility that Martha White went to when she had her white collar crimes. This is going to be a federal penitentiary. Um, and I'm wondering what the conversation is in the federal penitentiary, because people in prison know R. Kelly. And
Ain't nowhere you can go where people don't know him. There's no way. And I think that like a while ago, I read that he's already had a little scuffle or a little incident in there already. So they own him already. So he's gonna have a long road.
Well, the thing is that, he may not, doesn't matter how much years he get, he may can get the women to do what he want them to do. But I think he's gonna be all right though. He'll be still be able to get his little pleasure on. He just won't be the, you know. I'm just saying.
I will add something. Also, I read a part of an article that said since the verdict, the National Sexual Abuse Hotline has had an increase of phone calls by 33%. So that is an alarming increase of people who are reaching out to report either sexual abuse for someone else or from themselves. So if nothing, this has brought attention to it, and I hope that people who have been abused, um, feel more comfortable sharing their story, and disclosing, their perpetrators and turning them in, because it takes a lot of courage to do that. There's still so much shame behind being a sexual abuse victim, and so just being able to share your story, and feel safe to report it, via that abuse hotline. I think that that's something positive that might be coming out of this unfortunate trial.
And that is a very good point, because a lot of people, because you have people who would say the victim is lying, then you will have people who will say it's only because of this and this is only the reason why they're out to get this person. So a lot of people are afraid to report these things. And then even in our neighborhood, being just everyday people, there are people who are abused and sexually and won't report it as well because of intimidation, don't want to look at a certain way. So, but I think it's 2021. And I think if this is the time for everyone in any situation, you have to stand in your truth, regardless if you have supporters or believers, if you're going to be judged. That's your truth. So in order for you to be able to heal from certain things that happen, you have to just be strong and get a support group that will be able to allow you and support you when you are in your truth. So anyone out there that knows anyone that is being, physically, sexually abused, let them know that you're there for them and support them. And if they choose to not go to the authorities right then and there, that's okay. They have to get into that place where they're able to stand in their truth, that when people start to judge them or question their credibility, they're able to stand firm in their truth. And I think that's what happened all those years ago into now, including Aaliyah's, her family members, especially her uncle. All these years, we never heard anyone said anything about her. But this uncle, he came out and he stood in his truth. maybe this is something that the family at one point did not want to get out there, but they knew it was time, because time heals all wounds.
And speaking of time, I think it's a good time for families to have that conversation. There's not a family out there who hasn't been impacted by some type of sexual abuse in their family. I mean, these are things that we don't really talk about, but there's an uncle or a cousin or your mom or your sister or your aunt, somebody in your family has been molested or abused. I mean, 1 in 10 women have been sexually abused. And so it's not a conversation that we have on a regular basis, but I think that it's a good time to just kind of, you know, uh, heal, and then, create a safe space for younger children to know that it's okay if this happened to you. Please come and share it with an adult in the family, whether it's me or someone else. Let us know what's happened or is happening so that we can rally around you, support you, and make sure that it doesn't happen again. So even though this verdict is being sensationalized in the media, we're going to probably hear about it for the next couple of weeks. I still think that it opens opportunities for dialogue to happen and for healing to occur for people who have been victims of sexual abuse. And then also for people, like you said, to be able to stand in their truth, to be able to say, that happened to me too. Maybe not to the extent, that R. Kelly's victims experienced it, but to the extent where, somebody violated me and I felt pressure to conform or comply when I really didn't want to. And, it's impacted me in this way. A lot of times abuse is hidden, and when people don't talk about it, it affects them in ways that they're not consciously aware of. And so I think lots of good discussions could happen because of this. And so, we'll continue to follow the story and what happens, and we'll continue to discuss it on Let's Gripe. But, to our listeners, if this is rubbing you in a sensitive way because you yourself has been a victim, just pay attention to how you're feeling and make sure that you have a safe place to talk about that, whether it's, a family member, a friend, a stranger, a diary, a prayer, because we know that somebody out there that's listening most likely has been impacted some way. So just be mindful of how you're feeling when those feelings come up, that you have a safe place to go and share it with someone, so that it doesn't negatively impact you and you can heal from, whatever your experience was in the past.
So I know that, so we know that before we went on the summer break, Bill Cosby, of course, his sentence was reversed, so he's home, and he has a lot to say. However, yesterday, when R. Kelly was found guilty on the charges, he commented through his attorney. He said that he believes R. Kelly got railroaded, has good shot at overturning the conviction on appeal. What do you guys think about that?
Man, it might be a good time for Bill Cosby to
I
just
think
chill
Marcus
out.
had a comment.
What's
Marcus
up?
had a comment earlier that said, Cosby, I was going to say, you had a comment earlier when he first got out to sit down and be quiet somewhere. And he didn't hear, he must have didn't hear you. He wasn't listening because you already told him to sit down and be quiet and don't say anything.
Don't say nothing. Chill out. Live your life. Live your best life. For whatever you did, somewhere along the line, somebody said, all right, we're going to give this guy another chance. Live your best life, bro. Don't say nothing to nobody. And the fact that she said he did it through his attorney is troubling to me.
Because everyone is telling him to sit back somewhere in the back of the room, and don't say anything.
But he ain't listening. He ain't heard a word.
I don't think
he was eating Jello pudding. He was somewhere eating Jello pudding and he didn't listen because you told him. You said, Uncle Bill, listen, when you get out of this prison, be quiet and don't say anything. Don't comment, nothing. Eat your Jello pudding, watch reruns of The Cosby Show. Don't call Felicia Rashard, leave her alone, and just chill out somewhere.
Leave her alone, please.
So, yes. And when I saw that ran cross, I think it was TMZ or something, I started to flip the channel. I was going through the guide. And guess what? TV1 The Cosby Show.
Now, hold on. Now that ain't gonna stop. Now I'm just gonna be real with y'all. That ain't gonna stop.
I mean, I'm okay, but can you stop talking?
Yeah, he got to do that though.
Can you
He has to
please?
do that.
Let's just keep you in our mind frame as the Cosby, as Dr. Huxtable.
Right.
Stay out of. See, I think he needs to have a conversation with O.J. Simpson though.
What up, Kim?
Hey Kim, how are you? But seriously though, have he not learned anything from O.J. Simpson?
Did you say learned?
No.
Did you say learned?
Learned.
Well, O.J. Simpson ain't learned either, because O.J. Simpson ain't been quiet either. He's a social media darling right now, so he ain't learned nothing either.
But he said, "I'm going to get 15 more minutes of fame because I'm gonna keep on talking." Because I said what I said.
Right.
I said what I said.
He didn't get back his Heisman trophies and all that stuff. Is that the reason why he not being quiet? So Madonna says she's waiting to see some indictment for these parents and other people that was aware of R. Kelly doing. And that's what I'm saying. That's why I said it's we only holding one person accountable. That's the only thing. Because I mean, 16, 17, like the things that you heard that he had individual doing at that age, and even 18, 19, 20, like you really will have to have a gun to my head or to slip something in my drink that I have no control over making any decision on myself, because no, I'm just saying. So Madonna, you're right. Marcus, I think Marcus wrote. I'm sorry.
Who you say?
No, that's what Madonna, she commented. She said she's waiting to see like indictments for parents and others.
Oh yeah, because I think
who allowed this to happen.
I saw an interview with Sparkle on the Breakfast Club, and of course, she was I think her niece or little cousin was the one that kind of broke everything open. As far as he had the tapes back in the day, and she was just kind of talking about it, and she was alluding to, and maybe I'm misspeaking, but she was alluding to the fact that her family already knew what was kind of going on. You know what I mean? And that, Sparkle was like, I was outraged when I found out, but come to find out, my family already knew. And so that she was like, yeah, we don't even talk anymore. Like her and her family don't even speak to each other anymore.
Wow.
That was when she did the interview. I don't know what their relationship is now.
It's now, as of today. Okay.
Yeah, this is maybe like 5 years ago, something like that. Maybe 3 years ago, something to that. But she made it seem like yeah, they already knew. And I remember when the other young ladies that kind of the recent one that were like, yeah, we his girlfriends or whatnot, the younger women, they were saying that their parents knew too, that their parents brought them backstage to his concerts in order to kind of, I guess, meet him, or something to that effect. So when the parents were on TV saying, just bring my daughter home and all these other things, and they was just like, some people was like, yeah, they fronting because they already knew. I think what we can establish is there's no debate about that the age of the women. You know what I mean? I think that's probably not up for debate. If what he likes, you know what I mean? But I think the consent of the parents is definitely something that should be investigated. Because if you are, for lack of a better word, pimping your kids out, then you need to definitely see some time or something like that. Because that's a disgrace, man. Especially for these young
And then
women.
how do you feel? I'm sorry, Marcus. How do you feel as the victim, though, knowing that your parent knew and was complicit in the trauma that you've experienced. I mean, like how that's a long road to come back from. You know, our parents are supposed to be there to protect us and not help participate in some exploitation of me as a 15, 14, 17, 19-year-old young person. Um, so those are conversations that are probably tough right now. You know, people
Yes.
are looking around, well, not even right now in this moment, but probably during the course of this trial and, you know, during the course of the discovery, like these questions probably, I could just imagine conversations being had and phone calls being made and people reliving their experiences. And then, you know, like later in life, you remember images, like you remember things, you remember being dropped off, and then you remember coming home and something was different about you, but nobody really said anything and nobody really brought it to your attention. Because, you know, if you have a child and they come home, there's something different about them when they've been abused. There's something different about you. And as a parent, you see that, like your innocence evaporate. You know, even as a young adult, when you're starting to smell yourself, so to speak, your parents are aware of what's happening, you know, and they'll say things to you to kind of draw you back in. So it's just, I'm wondering, like these memories that these young women probably are having, and even the memories that the parents may be having, the ones that allowed it to happen or participated or dropped them off. I wonder what's going on in those parents' mind, and if there's any fear that they're next to be indicted or prosecuted.
Well, we're just going to have to see. We're going to have to see. But also speaking about abuse, how about last week, a young lady was attacked at her home. There was a man posing as a flower delivery man. He was in a van. He had some beautiful flowers. So I guess he invested on buying some nice flowers. And he rang the doorbell and said he had flowers for delivery. You know, us being women, you're thinking, oh my goodness, it could be for my job. It could be a birth. You know, we could think it's a special occasion and we're so excited to get flowers. So when she opened her door, this man took out a taser and tased her. She was able to escape. Come to find out, he has been watching her. And then he finally decided to make his move. So not only in Atlanta, but everywhere you are, we have to be women, even men, you have to be your mind, you have to be ready for anything that happens. So in other words, you know how normally you open the door and greet someone, instead of doing that, you talk through the door. One of that thing. I see you shaking your head, McKenna.
No, I'm just thinking, wow, you know, this is the stuff that you see on Law and Order SVU, but this is the kind of stuff that happens in real life. I mean, you're watching me for who knows how long, and you come up with this elaborate plan to pose as a delivery truck driver with flowers because you're targeting me, like you are preying on me intentionally so that you can get me. It's I'm just shaking my head like, wow, the how do we get to this place where we stalk people so that we can harm and abuse them and yeah, just wow, I'm just speechless. I'm just thinking about how traumatic that must have been, but thankfully, you know, she was able to get away. But it's just amazing what lengths people do to do the wrong thing. Like imagine if you use all that creativity and genuineness to do something positive, but you spent, I mean, if you want to do something positive, help find some missing people. You want to be a stalker, you know, help find some missing people, but don't be
Right.
a predator.
Yeah, right, right. Um, man, I remember. I guess it was a time of, I don't know, Amazon had a boom or something. But they started kind of, you know, using contracting people out in their own vehicles. I remember, you know, it was like maybe 8 o'clock at night. It's dark outside, and doorbell rings. So, you know, we sit in the house like, man, who is that? I ain't expecting nobody. You expecting somebody? Nah, we not expecting nobody, right? So I go out to the door, look through the peephole, and I see an unmarked white van with the door open and nobody out there. And then and then the guy came and he was like, "Oh, it was just me." And I'm like, "Who is you?" He was like, "Yeah, oh man, I delivered the package right there." He was like, "Man, I don't know why people be acting scared, bro. What you mean?" Right.
You are right, because if you notice, they are contracting drivers, so they pull up in U-Hauls, just regular vans nowadays. Even some private videos, you see them, pull up, delivering your packages. So even though you might be expecting a package, leave it at the door. I get it when I get it.
Right. Don't be pulling up
Exactly. Wow.
with nothing on your van, just a white van. Don't be doing that. What's wrong with you?
Right, and then what's wrong? And then they move so lackadaisical. Like they should move swiftly with a sense of urgency. They just be loafing around. Some of them aren't well put together. Clothes are sagging. Like I don't know who you are. You need to have on an official T-shirt that says Amazon or FedEx. If your truck isn't marked, your attire should be. You should have on a visor, a big sticker, like something that says that you are. I should be able to scan you from a distance.
Right.
I should
Exactly.
be I should be able to be like, oh, okay, you're legitimate. Go ahead and leave that package. But yeah, I remember there was a delivery truck driver and he circled twice and I was looking like, where is he going? This is that work. When you work at home, you see things that you don't see when you're at work in the building. And so I'm looking at this, he circled twice. I said, okay, he is either lost or he is looking for a number. And I remember one day I was expecting a package. So I saw him. They used to do a good job of sending you a message to let you know that the driver is on the way. And you used to really be able to track them. Not so much anymore. Like sometimes they'll say it's going to come between 2 and 5, and then the next thing you know, it says it's delivered. But I remember being able to look on the app and seeing the driver like drive down the street and be around the block. So, anyways, this day, I was expecting a package. Um, I saw him when he pulls up, but I didn't go out right away. I waited for him to go back to his truck. And then I go outside, there's 2 packages there. I'm like, I only ordered one thing. So I look at it and the other package wasn't for me. So he was still in the area. So I just kind of waved at him. I said, this is not for me. He was like, yes, it is. I said, what does that number say? And so he read the number out loud. I said, well, what's my address? And he was like, oh, you're right, miss. My bad. You're going to argue with me? I know this is not my package. No, sir.
Speaking on that, he's about to argue you about a package. So I have been dealing with customers lately. And so, for example, here's an example. The company name is Mary Had a Little Lamb, right? 1 second, you guys. I kind of have to cough. Excuse me. Mary Had a Little Lamb. You answer the phone. The caller says, hey, I have a question. What color is Mary Lamb? Okay. Valid question. The lamb is white. It's white, but I thought it was white as the snow. Isn't that the same thing? You're about to argue with me because I didn't say it was white as the snow versus just white? I'm just saying. These are the 2021 customers that we're dealing with today. Yes. Anybody want to chime on that? I guess that's my gripe, actually.
Well, my gripe is about these people who are doing cold calls about jobs these days. Does anybody get those? Where people are like, of course, they're telemarketing, because they're doing cold calls about jobs. It was like, yeah, I'm just calling you for a job opportunity. Now, the first couple of times I was like, oh, no, thank you. No, thank you. You have a great day. The last couple of times, I just hang straight up. I ain't got time to be sitting up here and telling y'all no. In your system, it should be like he's told us no this time. Maybe the 5th time, I should be like, he probably don't want this job. This ain't for him. Because I told him that already. So I don't know why they keep sending out these telemarketing cold calls about a job. I don't know what's going on. Who approved that?
But here's how bad it's gotten in New Jersey. Unemployment is paying the unemployed $500 to get a job.
They said, please go back to work. Please go back to work. Please go out here and get a job. I mean, speaking of getting a job, the Family Dollar by where I live, they usually close, what, 9 or 10 o'clock. The other day I passed by, it's 6 o'clock. It's closed. No cars, lights off. I'm like, did it shut down? The next day I passed by, I leave the gym around the same time, maybe around 7 o'clock, and it's open. So some of these businesses are closing because they don't have people to work the entire shift, so they just close early. So you don't know what time the store is going to close, what time the store is going to open, because they don't have enough staff to keep with the operating hours that are posted on the door. So I can understand New Jersey's point of view. Please go back to work, but interesting. $500. Here's your bonus. Here's your bonus. Go back to work.
So, McKenna, I always call you the reasonable one, but please tell me reasonably, where did all these job openings come from during the pandemic?
So what happened is there were a lot of people who lost their jobs. Companies downsized. Companies laid people off proactively because they weren't making the revenue that they were making in the past. Some companies went remote. And in the meantime, people decided that they didn't want to go back to their old job. So some people started home-based businesses. Some people went back to school. Some people let their kids work because the kids could go out and make $17 an hour and make enough money to support the family while the adults collected unemployment. And so then businesses reorganized, and they said, okay, so we're going to restructure, reorganize, and we're going to make our companies a little bit more efficient, but we still need people to do that. But the people that they had aren't there anymore. So now they're in a situation where they need people to work. And it's not that people don't want to work, because I think people do want to provide for their families, but I think that there is a work revolt that's happening where people are saying, please pay me a livable wage. Please, please send me to a company whose culture supports not just livable wages, but fair working conditions. Please don't manage me in a micromanaging kind of way. Please make the work expectations, something that encourages me to use my talents and my abilities to thrive in this position. So I think the employees are having a voice saying, I do want to work, but this is what I want to work and do. I know people that have interviewed for jobs and said, no, I'm good. Because because as an interviewee, you get to ask those questions. Well, what's your company culture like? What's the retention rate like? What opportunities are there for growth? How does this company value its employees? So as a interviewee, you actually are interviewing the person that's interviewing you in that company, and you're making that decision. Now, will this last for a while? Not necessarily, because eventually people are going to run out of their money, and eventually people are going to have to go back to work. And then the other piece to that is with the tenants not having to be evicted, that created opportunities for people not to have to work, because usually your largest expense is your rent or mortgage. And so if you're not paying rent and you're not getting evicted, then you only have to pay your cell phone and your light bill and some foods, and you can do that on unemployment, or if your teenagers are working, they can help support you because you're not paying rent. So I think all of these things contributed to, where we are right now in this almost work crisis, but not quite work crisis.
Now you see why I call her reasonable.
Yeah, it's I mean, it makes sense though, like, because you think about it, like, for the people that were making anywhere from 10 to $15 an hour, right? They probably bring in anywhere from $500 to $600 a week, maybe. You know what I mean? After taxes and all that stuff. And so you trying to tell those people who've been up there hustling and busting and stressing out all that time to make ends meet, to deal with a boss they probably don't like, but they sat at home, make the same amount of money and get their bills paid. I don't see this logic in going back to work. I don't see it. And if you're still getting some money and you just got to make up a little bit of the difference. You'll do what you can to make up the little bit of that difference, and go back and still deal with the stressfulness of being at a job, about to fight. This is stereotypical, about to fight Keisha and them because she keep on looking at you
Right.
wrong. You know what I mean? You ain't got to deal with all that.
Yeah.
So
No, and then you can send your 17-year out there to go work.
see, I didn't know
Because
about that
the
part.
17-year-old's not the one. I mean, if you think about it, if you're the adult, if your child was 17 and you're collecting unemployment, you could send your 17-year-old to go work 20 or 30 hours a week, making $17, $18 an hour. Your 17-year-old could pay the rest of the household bills while you collect unemployment, and y'all are good.
That's a hustle.
I'm just saying.
That's a good
I'm just
hustle.
saying. And then you could still claim your child on your taxes because it's a minor. It's still a dependent minor. But your 17-year-old is the one that's holding the weight. And then you could braid hair on the side or barber on the side and pay cash money doing that. I'm just saying.
You guys went real deep with that. So you probably gave some of our listeners
Then you can get
a little
your
hint.
and then you can get a 1099 job, and you're not going to file taxes this year anyway, so you'll just file 2 years from now and hope they don't catch you from the 1099 year. Because this year, I mean, if you think about this year taxes and last year taxes, there was a whole lot going on. So the IRS is really busy. They don't really have time for little people. They're busy with these people who got this 30 and 50 and 60 and $120,000 of PPE money and $1.2 million that fraudulently got that money. Not, the regular person who had this 1099 that probably owes $6,000 in taxes. But I mean, in the grand scope of things, that's not enough to be bothered with. So let me go after. I mean, so people are legitimately surviving because people know how to survive. I mean, it's what we do.
Yeah.
We figure it out.
Figure it out.
But like you said, is it going to last forever? No. So we have to have a backup plan. Well, guess what? It's 7:59.
I see it.
I mean, I'm just saying, time go fast. But that's okay.
It's so good to see y'all.
We're here every Wednesday, 7 to 8. The time might be changing. We're going to have the discussion and we'll let you guys know. However, you still can email us at letsgripe@gmail.com about our Peach Corner. Peach Corner letter is still here. We do have one, but of course we weren't able to get to that tonight. So we'll definitely get to that next week. I'm planning to go back in the studio maybe once a month. So we can start taking calls, so we can have our callers interact with us. So this fall season, we're gonna step it up a notch. So to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the powerhouseradio.com and YouTube Powerhouse, listening to Let's Gripe. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This is TONIA.
And this is Marcus. That's okay.
And McKenna was on mute, and then
Yeah.
she's circling. But that's all right. Technical difficulties all the time.
We'll get it together.
At least this wasn't The View. Okay? When they had to pull the two hosts off because, yeah, we'll talk about that next Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. I'm signing out for McKenna. See you next Wednesday.
Signing out.
Good night.